Welcome to the Stronger Than Steel podcast with your host, Austin Davidson and John Keir, talking Steelers all the time. Now, here's Austin and John.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Stronger Than Steel podcast. My name is John Keir, and joining me as always is my co-host, Austin Davidson.
Hello.
Happy Thursday, everybody. It is Season 5, Episode 32, and we are talking about the Steelers improving to 11-0 for the first time in franchise history after their ugly 19-14 victory over the Baltimore Ravens. Kind of an ugly game all around, Austin. One that I don't think will have fans clamoring for football on a Wednesday again anytime soon.
Not a fun game. For a victory, it was one of the most sad victories I feel like I've ever had. I left the game feeling sad.
Yeah, this was a really just ugly game all around, and honestly kind of perfectly encapsulated the way this entire week went. The longest week in NFL history, a game played on Thanksgiving back last Thursday, a week ago from today, at the time of recording, and the week ending on the following Wednesday, 6 days later. So we knew that there were going to be a ton of absences, especially from the Ravens in this game. And, you know, the Ravens were down a bunch of starters in several areas. Robert Griffin III started for the Ravens. The Steelers were down James Conner, Stephon Tuitt. Not a whole lot of pieces missing on that end. So you're getting mostly a full Steelers squad ahead of this game. So what proceeded to happen was really just ineptitude from the Steelers and sloppy play all around. I mean, there were 4 turnovers in just the first quarter alone. I had to catch back up as it was going on, but I mean, Austin, I think we speak for pretty much anyone that watched this game. This was not a proud sight for the NFL. What do you attribute such sloppy play to in this instance?
There's a lot of things that play into it. I feel like under preparedness is part of it, but that's definitely not an excuse. Like Tomlin said, just sucking. There's a lot that went wrong in here. A lot of things. I think because the schedule got messed up, I'm pretty sure that messed with it too. There's just kind of a lot that goes into the struggle that happened in this game between the offense and special teams. Defense struggled a little bit, but not really compared to the other two.
So the Ravens come in desperately needing a win, but they're shorthanded. I don't think many people gave them much of a chance. And offensively, they knew they were going to have to kind of take their chances. But I guess when we start by looking at what the Ravens were trotting out there offensively, you said, the Steelers did a relatively decent job on defense on the day. And finishing with only 14 points against isn't too bad either. And offensively, the Steelers, not really a great day. First time scoring under 24 points this season, the Steelers did. And again, just an ugly performance all around. Even the special teams, which had been great all season, save for a few instances, was really not good in this one. And it started on the opening kick as well. The Ravens' Devin Duvernay had a 26-yard return to the 35-yard line on the first opening kickoff of the game, and really just kind of the ball was rolling downhill from there on. So why don't we start actually just kind of going through the flow of the game, if you will, and we'll start with, the two teams traded 3-and-outs early on, not a whole lot going on, and then on the Ravens' first play of their second drive, just a fumbled exchange turns into a Steelers possession, and the Steelers drive down to the goal line. And I guess why don't we start with talking about the offense here, since this is the first really notable thing that happened in the game. The Steelers get the ball at the Ravens' 22-yard line, get their way down inside the 5-yard line at the 1-yard line, 4th and goal. We were talking before we started recording, Austin, not crazy about the way this situation unfolded. On 4th and goal, the Steelers needing just a yard to get into the end zone. You like the personnel they come out in, 22 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, and that's fine and dandy, but they're spread out in the shotgun 5 wide, and instead of any type of positive play, Ben, in desperation, just kind of heaves it up after the play is broken down and he gets picked off. Not a lot to like on this play.
Not at all. It was really tough. I hate the play calling on the 4th and goal. I feel like there was a lack of trust in J.C. Hassenauer, which in some regards is fair because, I mean, he's just kind of thrust into the role that day. They had no idea he was going to be starting until 3 hours before kickoff. I hate that play call. You got to run it there. There's just so much room for error on the throw. You can get sacked and lose yards. You can throw it short and lose yards. You can get intercepted like we saw. If you run it, the worst you're going to get is you're going to lose like minus 2 yards. It's like the worst you can get out of that. The idea is even if you get it, even with your defense has to start at the 1 yard line, and you could send like the house basically. And that's why you should be running there. You hope for the touchdown, but if you don't get it, you literally have them sit there, and the defense could have, The defense could have got a safety. It worked out, as literally the next set is a pick 6 from that exact spot starting 3 plays later. But it's like all luck. I mean, it's not luck that happened, but it's like the Steelers played it completely wrong, in my opinion. I hate that play call to try on the goal line, short field. It was an awful.
And the Steelers take over their next offensive possession. They are actually losing at this point, 7-6. We'll get into that in a little bit. But the Steelers utilized a lot of no-huddle in this game, and I like that from the standpoint of the Ravens were shorthanded. You want to try to tire them out as the game goes on. Steelers got the ball moving a bit down the field. A nice play by Anthony McFarland on a reception. Basically, the Steelers just dinking and dunking their way down the field. They get inside the red zone, down to the 5-yard line, and then the Steelers stall out, a loss of 2 yards, and then 2 straight incompletions, and the Steelers are unable to capitalize. They only get 3 points, making it excuse me. The Steelers only make it 9-7. My apologies. Make it 9-7 after that because they had gotten the touchdown from Joe Hayden. So that right there was the Steelers' second drive into the red zone that produced only 3 points. So at this point, you have 2 drives into the red zone and just 3 points to show for it. I'm trying to kind of quickly move up to this point in the game when the Steelers had the ball in here again. But I felt like the Steelers ran the same type of plays all game, and the Ravens were just giving them the underneath routes, and they were taking it. But the problem is when they got to the red area, the field tightened up, and the Steelers then had trouble throwing beyond that.
Yeah, this is where we totally saw the draw problem to happen in this game, or where it became like a big factor. 2nd and goal at the Baltimore 7. Ben Roethlisberger in the shotgun, passing complete short to Chase Claypool. That was placed really well for Claypool, and it wasn't even really broken up. It was put into his hands. That was a drop in the end zone. Next play, 3rd and goal. 7. Atkins again, Ben Roethlisberger passing complete short to Deontay Johnson this time. Also a drop. Those were 2 drops that would have been touchdowns, and it really, really sucked. It started a long day of drops for the entire Steelers team. You saw a bunch from Ebron. You saw maybe a couple from Claypool. It depends on how many you want to attribute him. And then you saw a couple of Johnson as well. This was a major factor. Both of the balls there, 2nd and 3rd and goal, were very catchable balls. I was more mad at the Chase Claypool one than the Deontay Johnson one there. I felt like Chase Claypool really had a good shot at it. Deontay Johnson's was a tiny bit harder, but I wanted them to come down with it, but it just didn't end up happening.
Same thing going on for the Steelers' next drive, again producing just 3 points. The Steelers using a lot of short passes again, just kind of meandering their way down the field, and they were able to get a big pass play to Chase Claypool for 22 yards on a 3rd and 10. But besides that, they got inside the Ravens' red zone at the 8-yard line. Pass for that lost a yard, an incomplete pass twice in a row there, including the drop on that 2nd and 9, another drop. This one, the Ebron drop, which we were also talking about we don't think that that's necessarily a touchdown if he hangs on to it. But I mean, all he had to, if he made the guy miss there, he might have had a chance for the play. But again, another drop not really helping your cause there.
Yeah, it was just a day full of drops for every. Really bad. Honestly, after this game, can you remember the last time Mike Tomlin was this pissed off?
I've never seen him that
even
mad. Never. Not after a win.
Yeah, he's been way cooler after losses. This was he was pissed off. That sucked. He literally started his conference by saying he was disappointed in how his team played. He was really, really mad. To be a fly in that locker room would have been incredible. I really wish I got to see what happened in there, but he definitely did not come in there happy.
Team officials allegedly heard that he was basically yelling and ripping into them after the game too. So kind of wild to think about. But the Steelers had 4 offensive drives in the first half. I think you could deem none of them successful. The 3-and-out to start the game, the interception on the goal line, the second drive, and then the last 2 were 12 and 13 play drives, but only resulted in field goals. So the Steelers were tied by their defense in terms of points scored. And if you want to include the field goals as special teams, then you could give the offense no points. I mean, it was not a good day for the first for the offense for the first half, anyways. And the second half began the same way. The Steelers immediately they get a first down via a DPI on their first play, and then immediately go 3-and-out. Another 3rd and 4th and short situation, a drop by Juju Smith-Schuster on a 3rd and 2, and then a 4th and 2, a pass for Claypool that was broken up. Just it feels like we're saying the same thing over again because we're seeing the same things over and over again, just not getting the job done.
Yeah, it was tough. I don't really know why you go for it there on 4th and 2. I get that it's at the Baltimore 37. That was the one. I'm pretty sure they wrote it as 4th and 1. That was a long one. I don't know why you go for it there. If anything, you try. I know that he missed the PAT, but you try for a really long field goal again if you're gonna let the field flip anyway. I'm not a there either.
It went in the books officially as a 3rd and 2 and 4th and 2. Yeah, again, when it comes to these 3rd and 4th and shorts, the Steelers were spreading it out. On the 3rd and 1, they had Benny Snell in the backfield, but the way this team has been running the ball, I think the Steelers should be trying to do more to help their running game, but I'm not sure that the Steelers seem to think it's much of an issue, at least not Ben Roethlisberger, because he's perfectly content to just let it fly. But in a game like this, when the drops are happening rapidly, you really want to see a little bit more variety.
You want to rely on a successful run. Just want to see, if anything, at the very minimum, you could have a guy that rushes 9 times for 10 yards and just still have a successful run rate. Gus Edwards, I'm pretty sure, even though he had that exact stat line, I think he had a successful run rate in this game. Over percent. Don't quote me on that, because I might be wrong. He got the touchdown. He had a few conversions as well. It'd be close. I'm pretty sure he did. But regardless, I'd rather that. You got to be able to run on 4th and 2. You got to be able to run on 3rd and 2. It's kind of how Steelers do everything backwards. They're trying to trick the team that they're playing, but their tricks have become. They're trying to be unpredictable, but they're being so predictable through their unpredictability. Now it's it's not even a meme anymore. On 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1, 4th and 2 or 4th and 1, I expect them to throw now because it's just they'll never expect it, and then they throw. 2nd and 10, I just expect them to run now. It's whenever they're put in that situation, which, granted, I will say for this game, they didn't actually rush on a 2nd and long as far as I remember, because they weren't given the chance. They only had 20 runs, but 19, I should say. It's just it's so predictable. They're trying to take advantage, but I think, John, did you say it on the podcast or off about the running with shotgun? Did you say it on both? I
might have said it before, but I don't think I have not today. But if you're talking about like my whole opinion as far as like the way they line up in short yardage, I don't have a problem with spreading it out, but I want a threat of a downhill run, and in my opinion, running from the shotgun is just killing any momentum you have, thus making it not a threat.
It's just like let's see some running under center. Come on, like anything. Like I just don't know. I don't understand their philosophy. Why they're trying to outcoach themselves. Like they're trying to make themselves unpredictable. It's not working. They're trying so hard.
Well,
they gotta play fundamentals a little bit. Like just run it when it makes sense.
let's for the next podcast, I want to do something. I'm going to write this down because I want to remember this. For our next podcast, we should create kind of like a wish list for this offense, because let's back up kind of big picture here. If we're talking about the Steelers making any sort of impact in this season as far as the playoffs go, they're gonna have to have their offense pick up the slack due to the loss of guys like Devin Bush, and obviously we'll get to Bud Dupree later on. This offense is still ranked 22nd in the NFL. They've been able to run the ball with success at times. They've been able to throw the ball with success more of the time, but just not deep down the field. I think we should come up with a wish list of 3 things and iron it out more for the next podcast, but we can kind of just generally brainstorm right now about 3 things the Steelers can do to make their offense better. And I think number 1 is starting with kind of that, just sometimes keep it simple.
Yeah, but keeping it simple involves using the quarterback sneak, who as it's a high percentage play on really short downs, and they will never do it consistently. Seeing that is like a unicorn, man. It's like play action in the offense.
But even then, like, I still feel like there are things that this team can do better. Like, for instance, just running, I don't know. I just feel like there are things that we could kind of iron out that make more sense. And what's weird is that they actually did run successfully at the end of the game, even though a lot of that had to do with just Benny Snell at the end. They had their best running plays at the very end. I mean, there's layers to this, but I think part of it is that. I think another part of it is, I don't know, trying to do something different in the red zone. I'd like to see more of the jet sweep motion incorporated. I feel like we haven't seen that much lately. I do remember seeing it one play, but I feel like there are things that this offense could do in the meantime, even if that doesn't improve, like hitting the deep ball more consistently would be better, or I don't know. There are things that this offense can do so much better that I feel like they hold themselves back.
Yeah, man. It's perfect in time for Christmas, too. We're putting our wish list into Santa.
Alrighty. So we'll be sure to get some work done on that. But the Steelers finally were able to get a touchdown drive on their third drive of the second half, a 12-play, 61-yard drive. Juju Smith-Schuster capping the drive off with a couple of nice grabs, including his 6th touchdown of the year. But their next 2 drives, again, just 10 total plays and 2 punts. And then they end the game with really one of their better drives of the game, despite the fact that Deontay Johnson actually had a fumble. Smith-Schuster also had a fumble, but it was out of bounds too. But the unsung play hero of the game was James Washington. 3rd and 6 from the Steelers' 17, a play that made just no sense whatsoever. Ben Roethlisberger throws into triple coverage to find James Washington. He doesn't just gun it in there; he floats it in there. And anyone will tell you that as a quarterback, lofting the ball like that, like a lollipop in the middle of the field, anywhere that isn't in the end zone, like when you're in a goal-to-go situation, it's like throwing back across the middle of the field. You're asking to get picked off. But somehow it worked, and Washington came up with the big play again.
That felt like a whole minute went by while that ball was in the air. That was so scary. I'm pretty sure everyone was scared during that play, besides Ben Roethlisberger. He's like, I got it. If you slow that play down, Ben Roethlisberger threw that before James Washington's even out of his break. That is so scary, but he had all the trust in the world in James Washington. And honestly, for the day, that probably made the most sense. He has the strongest hands on the team, and he might be the only one capable of not dropping, even though you technically could maybe count him for a drop earlier in that game, but I don't. I think that was a really good play by the defense. But, that was a very, very scary play. I hate the play call, but you know what? It worked. I guess I will take it because it basically ended the game.
I don't mind throwing for it to try to get the first down there, but I do still have to question the decision. Man, James Washington has come up big all year whenever he's been asked to do so. His snap count has been reduced in recent weeks, really since the Titans game. I saw an article talking about trying to get him on the field more. I'm not sure how you do that without taking guys out. I mean, in this game, I think you could have benched guys with the way they were dropping the ball, like Deontay Johnson, but I think it's going to be harder to get him on the field more than... I mean, he was on the field for 24 snaps. That's not nothing.
That's what I'm saying. I think that they did actually end up benching Johnson at the end of the game. Like, I felt like Washington was on the field a lot more.
Let me get the snap counts for you real quick here.
Yeah.
I have Deontay Johnson for 65 snaps. Juju Smith-Schuster with 67. Chase Claypool with 45. James Washington with 24.
How much was Ebron on?
Eric Ebron had 49.
Okay.
Ray McLeod had 9. By the way, that's about where I want McLeod.
Yeah.
See, the problem is Claypool and Washington play the same receiver position, the Z. So if you're taking a player out for Washington, it's most likely going to be Claypool.
Yeah.
So
That makes sense.
I'd love to have Washington out. Maybe there's something you can do where if you are going to spread it out like that, just take, they had been using a lot of McLeod, and I imagine they did do this whenever they had the chance this week. But have those 4 receivers, swap McLeod for Washington and Ebron or something. I don't know. Or there's got to be something else that could be done. I'm just kind of brainstorming.
4 wide receiver sets or something. 4.
You know what else I'm wondering might help with the running game too? Since Ebron's not a good inline blocker really, he's good at sealing down on the edge. Why not just run basically him in the slot and McDonald as the inline tight end and have Ebron kind of block down on a linebacker? Run like a toss crack or something.
Maybe. They actually ran a crack toss in this game. I mean, I think that makes sense. I fear of Ebron holding. Ebron got away with a hold on this game, and I actually think it might have been on that toss, now that I think about it.
I think it was.
Pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he got away with it. He didn't get called for it. But he doesn't trust his own blocking. He holds. Scary.
No. I need to see more of this game. I wonder if it's condensed. I'm going to try to find it condensed on YouTube. But all in all, for the offense, I mean, the final numbers don't look awful. 334 yards isn't awful, but again, you need to add context. There were, I think we counted 8 drops unofficially in this game. You add that to Roethlisberger's total, he's probably closer to 300 yards on the day. He finished with 266, and the offense looks a lot better. The ground game finished with not great stats, but Snell ran better at the end of the game. You just want to see more consistent running early on in the game. I guess if you have to take a pick, you'd rather them run effectively at the end. But for a team that was facing the Ravens without their starting defensive line, the entire starting defensive line, this was just not good. Not good, even close. And, I'd be willing to chalk it up to crap happens, but we've said this about a lackluster run defense for weeks now. I don't know how... I'm starting to run out of, we were talking earlier before about the creativity of the offense and what could they do to, make things easier on themselves. We're not sure that they are going to do that. So at some point, it's just going to have to be the guys have to block better, the runners have to run better.
It's really what it comes down to. I mean, you can make the excuse because you don't have James Conner and Marquis Pouncey, but I literally don't think that a single thing would have changed. If you had both those players, I don't think the offense does anything different. I really, really don't. And that's not just Marquis Pouncey is worse or the same as J.C. Hassenauer, or that James Conner's worse than Benny Snell. It's really the play calling. I mean, the line could block better, but I really don't think Pouncey hasn't been great against the run either, like for helping the run. I just don't see this game going any differently with those two players. It really doesn't change anything for me. They got to fix how they do play calling.
A lot of context has to be added with those drops. This offense performs a lot better if they catch at least like half of those balls. And I know Roethlisberger also had a couple poor throws too, but I thought there were elements of this offense that played well, but I think the kind of inconsistent nature of what the Steelers are doing on offense made it harder on themselves, and then just failure to complete assignments, execute correctly, kind of hurt them. And especially in the red zone. The red zone is really the key here, and the drops are a part of that too. But, I mean, Austin, I don't really think it's hyperbole to say that the way this team played, if they played any other NFL team in the league, even the Jets, I think they lose this game by double digits.
Oh, yeah, this was a terrible performance all around, and literally, if you were not playing that practice squad team, we would have lost. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It was really, really bad.
Let's slide over to special teams real quick, because they were really bad in their own right. I know Boswell finished the day nice on the field goal stat sheet, and Jordan Berry was nice with his punting again. Good for him. I really didn't think he was going to play this well. But I guess besides those final 3 games of last season, he's been really good, really, the past couple of years. So good on him. But the Steelers' return game was awful. Ray McCloud with a horrible decision to not fair catch an early punt return. Muffed it, and it turned into the Ravens' first points of the game. There's no reason for that to happen. And Chris Boswell was horrible on kickoffs early in the game, too.
Yeah, it was just not very good all around. Like you said, Jordan Berry was kind of like the only one that did anything good. And I'm still waiting for him to just blow up in the next 2 games and be terrible. Because just like last season, because last year we were talking about how great he was playing in the beginning, and then he just ended really poorly. So I'm not even sold that he'll keep it up. But I hope so. I hope that he is able to actually keep it up.
Worst return grade of the year for McLeod, who's been pretty solid for Pittsburgh this year. Ball security was an issue for him in his previous years with the Panthers and Bills. Not ready to make a change yet, right? But how many more times does he have to make mistakes like this for you to want him moved?
Oh, my God. No, I'm not even thinking about changing. He had 1 fumble. I'm pretty sure by this time Deontay Johnson already had 2 or 3.
He wasn't
last year. I have no.
I'm just saying, Deontay Johnson's a higher drafted receiver. Remember, Eli Rogers disappeared off the face of the earth after he muffed a punt once.
Yeah, but Eli Rogers hasn't been playing as good as Ray McCloud has been playing. Good players make mistakes. I'm not thinking about benching him until he fumbles.
All right.
It has to be twice in a game.
All right, let's go to the defense then. Finishing pretty good on the stat sheet, but 14 points against. They're probably a touchdown too generous. The special teams basically handed the Ravens 7 points there, more or less. I know the Steelers' defense probably could have stopped them there too. But the Steelers really only gave up one really bad drive. Let me think about this for a second. I think they only had one really bad drive the entire game. And it was that, in terms of like actual length, it was that last drive of the first half with the whole controversy of Vince Williams laying on the pile for too long. That was really the only long drive the Steelers gave up besides the last one with the Trace McSorley to Marquise Brown one. I mean, through through until that final drive. So, like, let's exclude that final drive right now. I was happy with the performance with the exclusion of a few plays, like those the kind of like read option plays where RG3 kept one for 39 yards and Justice Hill had, I think, like a 20-yard run too. Besides those two plays, I thought the Steelers defense had done a good job up until that last drive.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of had the easier job for the day. The Ravens' offense was a little bit more banged up than their defense. They obviously lost their quarterback, one of their starting wide receivers. Their whole line was a mess. They had to start an undrafted free agent in this game, but overall they still did pretty decently. I that one pass option, man, and then the the normal option plays, just awful. It's just watching those. They ran the same play, and it's what they always do. It's so frustrating. The Steelers are really bad against stopping the run against the Ravens, which, granted, it's not the worst thing in the world since the Ravens are the number one rushing offense. So it makes sense, but it's so frustrating to watch when you get run over by the same play over and over again with RG3. It's just, it's really frustrating. Watching that 39-yard one, it was tough. It was very. If the Steelers attempted anything like that, a rush on that play, I mean, they would never, but because they don't have the mobile quarterback the Ravens do, but that would have never worked for the Steelers. Any kind of run on 3rd and 11, that would have never worked. And then they did it multiple times. They ran on 3rd and long a couple times, and it worked. And it's frustrating when you're supposed to be a really good defense against stopping the run. I know you don't have Tuitt. I know you don't have Bud Dupree for the end of the game, but it's just you hope for better in that regard. But overall, they only led up 2 long drives, so I guess I can't complain too much.
Yeah, 58 yards of the Ravens, 129 total came on just 2 runs, but you can't take it out just like you can't take out that Trace McSorley 70-yard touchdown to Marquis Brown. The Ravens would have finished with 20 net yards of passing if that pass had not been allowed to be completed, but Terrell Edmonds took a horrible angle and Marquis Brown went the distance, and that play alone would be almost enough for me to give this defense a failing grade. There is no reason that play ever should have happened.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Minkah Fitzpatrick also gets turned around. It's not his original assignment, but you hope he gets the tackle there. I do appreciate Vince Williams' effort on the play because he was there trying to get him from behind, but Vince Williams is never going to keep up with Marquis Brown. Thinking of that, oh my gosh, I saw Keith Butler of old in this game, and it made me want to cry. Marquis Brown should have had 2 touchdowns in this game. There was one where I literally saw it and I'm like, oh my god, that TJ Watt lined up with Marquis Brown. What is happening right now? And where do you think they went? They went straight to Marquis Brown. It was overthrown. No, I'm sorry, it was thrown in front of at just like 2, maybe 1 inch. Otherwise, would have been a guaranteed touchdown because Watt was already behind by like 2 steps.
Give a big shout out to Cam Hayward on that play. He got pressured that forced that high throw. Otherwise, it would have been 6.
Yeah. That was just. I saw Keith Butler of old, and I really wanted to cry. I was like, why are you sending our best pass rusher in coverage against a really fast wide receiver? Who does that? But, it went okay, I guess.
So, I mean, overall, a win is a win, but Mike Tomlin was pissed. I don't think any of us were really happy. You look at the scoreboard and the stats, the Steelers kind of controlled play. Just a couple plays here and there is often the case. The Ravens had 2. Really, you look at 3 plays for the Ravens, the 70-yard touchdown to Brown, the 39-yard run by Griffin, and the 19-yard run by Hill. And then on the other side, you talk about any one of the drops for the Steelers. This game is probably ending up the way it should have probably ended up, but the fact is it didn't. And that's a big reason why Mike Tomlin was upset. But another reason why everyone was upset, and I think this is kind of how we'll close out this analysis of this game, was the fact that Bud Dupree, Steelers right outside linebacker, non-contact knee injury, right knee, unfortunately confirmed, torn ACL, is out for the season. That's a big, big loss for this defense.
Yeah, it was insult to injury on top of this really bad game that you had to deal with that afterwards. But losing Bud Dupree is big. You're getting the Alex Highsmith show from here on out. Likely the Steelers are not expected to sign anyone off the street, and they probably should not. They drafted I was about to say a Danny. They drafted Highsmith to be the heir to Bud Dupree. Basically, they were trying to get him ready for next year. Unfortunately, he's going to be put in that spot now, so his audition is going to be now. How badly the Steelers need to address the edge rusher position going into the draft. So, I'm hoping for the best. In the few snaps he's played, he's done pretty well, but he's not going to be Bud Dupree. So I hope no one is hoping for that.
So, I guess silver lining is that if the Steelers were going to suffer an injury, a season ender, to one of their four major pass rushers, I would think that the one you could most easily sustain would be Dupree. But the bad news is that the things he does well, obviously he's a really good pass rusher. I mean, I think that kind of goes without being said. But Austin, I think his best asset is actually his run defense.
Yeah, he was really good at block shedding against the run, I felt like.
He was really good at setting the edge, too. He'll be sorely missed there. And for Highsmith, I think the biggest concern with him is hitting that rookie wall. I mean, he needs to bulk up, but that's not going to happen this year. So in terms of just how much play time he gets, you hope that because he hasn't played a ton, he won't hit that rookie wall right away.
Yeah. Hopefully he's pretty rested from not having that many snaps. So coming in, maybe it's like a set of new tires for now, like you said.
And again, silver lining here. What's the thing that Keith Butler is best at as a defensive coordinator?
The blitz.
Yeah, scheming up pressure.
And pressure.
So,
yeah.
I guess it sucks because you want to look ahead to the Steelers and Chiefs, because the Steelers, to make the Super Bowl, are most likely going to have to beat the Chiefs. A lot was predicated on this defense being at full strength, but they've now lost two major starters on this unit. And you need all the help you can get against a team like the Chiefs. So it's going to be up to the offense and guys like Highsmith, Spillane, and Williamson to continue to pick up the slack. But that is where we are right now. So
going into the game against Washington, you might be down 4 starters total on defense. So you don't really know what's going on with Steven Nelson. And it's up in the air how long Stephon Tuitt will be on the COVID reserve list. You might be going in without Bud Dupree, without obviously Devin Bush, without Tuitt, and without Steven Nelson. That's tough. It's pretty tough.
Well, with that being the case, why don't we look ahead then to the injury report. Obviously, we were talking about Bud Dupree. He probably has played his last snap with the Steelers. Why don't we talk about that a little bit? In an odd way, I feel like the fact that he is out for the year, it almost improved his chances, however slightly, that he might come back next year.
Yeah, I feel like that isn't, like, it does a little, but I feel like people are more willing to pay players that got injured now comparatively to like 10 years ago. I feel like teams are more willing to take that risk, and they're still willing to shell out the money for a top-tier player, even if they got injured. So I still think he's gone. But I do appreciate his efforts, especially the past 2 seasons where he developed into a Pro Bowl edge rusher. But yeah, I doubt that he's going to come back to the Steelers. My early guess, no particular reason, is he's going to be a Buffalo Bill next season.
There were a couple guys that came back from devastating ACL injuries. I think Jamal Charles and Adrian Peterson came back from those injuries and had really good seasons. So I think since they kind of proved that you could come back from it, I think that we've seen over the past decade that it's a little bit easier to return from that than it has been in years past.
Yeah, things are getting better in the medical field, I guess, or just maybe teams are more, they believe in the players that they can be full strength coming back from the ACLs. I'm not sure.
Either way, I think that I agree with you. Dupree is probably gone. And, just talking about his career, it's a shame that it had to go this way in Pittsburgh. a guy that we were talking about legitimately with his fifth-year option, whether or not it should be picked up, developed into a fantastic linebacker on the opposite side of T.J. Watt the last few years. Hoping he gets paid, and this is why I don't begrudge players trying to get as much money as they can for the most part, Their time to make money is very limited, and Dupree might have very well cost himself some money in this scenario, but hopefully not too much. I'd imagine he's going to sign with someone probably later in the process just because of the nature of the ACL injury, but obviously we'll have plenty of time to see what's going on. Hopefully the Steelers can send him out with a nice Super Bowl victory down the line here. But in the meantime, he was placed on injured reserve, and Antoine Brooks Jr., the linebacker, was elevated to the active roster. As far as the rest of the injury report goes, Austin had touched on Steven Nelson. He's getting an MRI on his knee. Not sure exactly what's going on there, but I don't think it's unfair to speculate that he might miss this game against Washington this week, given that it is such a short week. Right tackle Chukwuma Okorafor missed a play earlier in the game, but he didn't appear on the projected injury report, so I'm guessing he was just banged up, maybe a stinger. And Marquis Pouncey, last but not least, was on the COVID reserve list. He was placed there just before the game started. No reported close contacts, so that's good. But obviously that's why J.C. Hassenauer played. And again, I thought Hassenauer represented himself well. Wasn't overly impressive, but was kind of quiet in a good way.
Yeah, he nearly got killed on one of the plays. It was the Ravens dialed up a blitz. There's two guys coming down the middle. Benny Snell got one. Hassenauer completely missed the other, so that was bad, but it didn't end up in a sack. Ben was able to get the ball away. But yeah, other than that, I thought he played decently.
So, some good news. The Steelers have eliminated the Baltimore Ravens from division contention and now only have the Browns to deal with as far as the AFC North goes. And they can, in fact, clinch it with a win this week against the Washington football team, including and as well as a loss for the Cleveland Browns against the Tennessee Titans, which is very, very possible. There are other scenarios in which the Steelers can clinch a playoff berth. They could win or tie, or have a Raiders loss or tie against the Jets. The Dolphins could lose or tie against the Bengals, and the Colts could lose or tie against the Texans. So the Steelers are getting pretty close to being the first team to clinch here. I think they have their eyes set first on the division and then ultimately the first round bye.
Yeah. I think Pittsburgh winning is probably the most likely out of all those scenarios. As they can clinch the playoff berth. The Jets don't inspire me. I know Las Vegas played really bad last week, but the Jets don't inspire me. The Bengals don't inspire me. The Texans probably have the best chance, and that's not really saying much because Indianapolis is actually pretty solid. I mean, they played really bad against the Titans, but I don't think that they keep that up. I think Pittsburgh winning is the most likely scenario to them clinching the playoffs this upcoming week.
One other bit of news: Josh Gordon, the receiver of the Seattle Seahawks, I forgot he was playing for them, was reinstated by the NFL. He'll return for the last two games of the season. That headline has been repeated so many times. The first time he was reinstated after a suspension, I was a freshman in college, so that was 6 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it's happened like 4 or 5 times, I feel. How many extra chances is this guy going to get? Are we just going to let him stay, or are we just going to ban him? Like, enough.
I don't know, man. I forget, was this most recent one for weed or no?
Dude, I don't even know. I don't know with him. Alrighty. Did we talk Thanksgiving games on the preview earlier this past week? Yeah, we would have had to, right?
We previewed them, but we didn't talk about the outcome.
I didn't think so, because I'm trying to remember the timeline as far as when the Steelers game was postponed, because I imagine it was before Thanksgiving.
We did the podcast really early, and then the game got postponed.
Gotcha. All right, well, the Steelers and Ravens not playing on Thanksgiving led to 2 stinkers. a 41-25 and a 41-16 game between the Texans and Lions and Washington football team and Dallas Cowboys respectively. I think the big bit of news to take from this is that Deshaun Watson is still really good, and the Lions fired their head coach Matt Patricia and general manager Bob Quinn. So apparently everyone in Detroit, the players are all thrilled, and even former players like Eric Ebron were happy, saluting his both Quinn and Patricia's dismissal from the team. Everyone seemed thrilled by it. So I guess everything that was said about Matt Patricia being kind of a horrible person to other people was all true.
Probably. I wouldn't be shocked. Based on the reactions, it seems like it. They really were happy that he's gone. So the Lions can, finally get someone competent for the job. Bieniemy would be great. But every team is going to be gunning for Bieniemy. If he doesn't get hired this year, I don't know what to say. Man just deserves a head coaching job somewhere, and he has his choice. He can go basically wherever he would like.
I'm curious, though, because all the former Andy Reid disciples are struggling right now, Nagy and Peterson. I'm wondering if there's an issue with that offensive scheme. Although Reid is running it just fine, but he also has the best quarterback in the world.
Yeah, Watson's pretty good.
Watson is pretty good. I'm sure Bieniemy would love to go there and get no first-round picks. So, I mean...
that's kind of tough.
Time will tell. But in any case, let's move on to the Sunday slated games. Probably the biggest surprise of the weekend. The Falcons not only defeated the Las Vegas Raiders, which you might have understood given the Raiders' emotional high from their game against the Chiefs last week, but what you were surprised to see was the absolute dismantling of the Raiders, 43-6. The Raiders just now on the fringe of the playoffs after looking good against the Chiefs twice, and the Falcons, surprisingly enough, looking somewhat resilient after a horrible start to the season.
Yeah, it just took firing their head coach, and now they've just been actually a really solid football team. This was probably the most surprising game of the week for me. I didn't think that. I never saw a blowout this big. We got to see Nathan Peterman in this game. That's how bad of a blowout it was. That was something.
I think that's Peterman's first game in like 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
It's been a while.
He didn't throw a pick. Fun fact. Peterman.
I don't believe it.
Nathan Peterman, last played in 2018 with Buffalo. Oh man, that poor guy. 7 picks in 2018. His passer rating lifetime is 34.
Hey. Great.
Where else? The Bills beat the Chargers 27-17. Justin Herbert struggling a bit in this one. Anthony Lynn's clock management was horrid. That was really bad. The Chargers finally lost a game by more than one score. The Bills keep trudging along.
I hate Anthony Lynn. I was so in position. To get the backdoor cover on this game. And then I guess it might not be Anthony Lynn's fault. It might be the offensive line. Might be there's partial blame to everyone. But the last play, I love it. They're given one more chance for a touchdown. Justin Herbert goes for a quarterback sneak. The rest of the O-line's in pass protection. It was so stupid to watch because you see O-lineman back up and you just see Justin Herbert try to dive into him. It was so dumb. I really thought I was going to get the backdoor cover with this one with like 5 seconds to go. So mad at his time management. So mad at whatever happened on that last play where Herbert tries to get a quarterback sneak. So mad.
Yeah, a quarterback. If you ever wondered what a quarterback sneak would look like with pass protecting offensive linemen, I'd say it went about as well as you thought it might go. If you ever want to see something like that happen again, I would not recommend it. The Giants eked out a 19-17 win. Daniel Jones got hurt in this one. He hasn't been practicing this week. Looks like a bad hamstring strain. Colt McCoy, who's still around, came on for him and was able to help lead the Giants to a 19-17 victory over the Brandon Allen-led Cincinnati Bengals. The Giants are in first place in the NFC East, Oh boy.
Can't wait for that playoff game that NFC East gets to host. It's going to be so much fun. Yikes. Yeah, both teams are bad, and I was correct in assuming that the Giants aren't that much better than the Bengals.
The Titans were able to throttle the Colts in this one due to a massive game from Derrick Henry. 178 yards on the ground. The Colts were unable to keep up and come back this time. I feel like the Titans were the better team all around. I'm confused about what the Colts are. I think they're good some weeks, but there are other weeks where I feel like they can't put it all together. The Titans, on the other hand, are getting hot.
Every week. If you guys want free money, whatever I pick for the Colts, do the opposite. Free money. I guarantee it. I said I would last podcast. I didn't. I need to go. I'm pretty confident I got every single Colts game wrong, and it continued in this game. It continued. It bothers me so much.
I need to see Derrick Henry splits. It's officially Derrick Henry MVP season, Austin.
It is. It's his MVP season always comes at the end of the year because he doesn't tire. He starts slow and then always just decides that, okay, well, it's the end of the year now. Everyone else is tired, so I'm just going to run over them.
So
wild.
2 years ago in December, Henry had 625 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground. That is, and last year, 2019. In December, he had 549 yards and 6 touchdowns. So, I mean, this guy, there's something to be said for defensive teams breaking down at the end of the year and having to tackle this 260-pound bulldozer that runs a 4.4.
Yeah, he is disgustingly scary.
Yo, how about Chad Beebe after muffing that kick return earlier in the game and then catching the game winner? Also, how about Jeremy Chin single-handedly giving you that win in that game as far as the spread goes? My goodness. I know he wasn't a guy that you were into prior to the draft. I think it's only the second time in NFL history a defensive player has scored on back-to-back defensive plays as he returns 2 fumbles for touchdowns right away.
Yeah, that was wild to watch. I honestly was still surprised the Vikings were able to win that game. That was a shock, but yeah, I had a feeling in my bones for this one, and it paid off. But I honestly thought the Panthers were going to win this one. I was shocked that the Vikings were able to come back after those 2 defensive touchdowns. Also hurt me deep inside because I was going to pick up Jeremy Chin in fantasy this week and start him over T.J. Watt because of the uncertain. Based at the time, there's uncertainty around the Steelers game even being played. I didn't know if there was going to be a forced Week 18 or anything, and so I was big sad because he put up like 35 points in fantasy and IDP leagues.
Cardinals and Patriots. The Patriots pull out the last-second victory. The Cardinals looked like they were going to storm ahead after a 10-0 lead in the first quarter, but it's clear that something's going on with Kyler Murray. He must be hurt because he hasn't been running the ball very much lately, and without that added dynamic on offense, the Arizona Cardinals have not been able to convert much on offense lately, and the Patriots walk away with the victory. The Cardinals now on the edge of the playoffs at this point.
Kyler Murray is damaged. I have no idea what is wrong because I watched the game and there are several times like, dude, why are you not running? Like, literally, like that's like been his thing. Teams are not as scared to play man against them anymore. Like their defenses are opening up. I don't know what the issue is. Like I understand he has a shoulder injury, but he's one of the best sliding quarterbacks in the league. I don't know why he's not running. You know what? I have an overwhelming feeling that's going to happen. I think he's going to retire after this season. It's a shot in the dark. After I saw that quote that he wishes he could play ball and baseball, I'm like, oh, Oh, I have a bad feeling about that. If this happens, I will have to remember this episode. I really have a feeling that he's going to take a sabbatical from football following this season. I don't think he's having fun. I think he hates it. He looks pissed every game.
That's actually kind of a nuts take you just had right there.
Right? It's something I just been. It's been a growing thing in the back of my head, and I really feel like this guy's about to go back to baseball, play for the A's. Pretty sure that's who owns his rights. Oakland A's. I think they drafted him 8th overall. Something
like that, yeah.
He just doesn't look like he looks like he hates it. He just doesn't look like he's having a good time at all. I don't know if that's just Kyler Murray. It's just I feel like he's just not having fun out there.
As opposed to last year, or is it consistent?
I don't know. I honestly didn't watch many Cardinals games last year. I just
you did watch. You did watch all of one
because I have.
You watched all of one last year, though.
That is true. I did watch all of one, but no. I don't know. It's just I was really after seeing that quote. That quote. I had thoughts on that's unbiased. It wasn't because obviously a player could just be a serious player and and stuff it's never like that. But after I saw that quote where he wishes he could play both of them, I got bad feelings about that. That would royally suck for the Cardinals. Royally.
I need to find this quote because I'm kind of curious about it.
It wasn't anything bad. He didn't say I really wish I could just play baseball. He literally just said that he wishes he could play both still.
An article 2 days ago, Arizona Cardinals Kyler Murray slammed again by radio host as imposter pretender. I don't know that this is what I'm looking for. Yeah, this isn't really what I'm looking for. Interesting. Well, we'll have to monitor that. Something else we're monitoring is the Jets' run to 0-16. They continued that with a 20-3 loss to the Tua-less Miami Dolphins. Earlier today, New York Jets head coach Adam Gase openly admitted he has not helped Sam Darnold develop as an NFL quarterback. Anyone that was shocked has not been watching football for the past few years, but Adam Gase is not a good coach and is not good at what he does. And if Sam Darnold was any good, it's like I've been saying, we will never know because of the fact that he plays with the worst organization in the NFL right now. And, I mean, it's like I said, I feel like the Jets' best chance to win right now is with Joe Flacco, but I do not understand their affinity for Adam Gase. I mean, it's clear they're going to go with Trevor Lawrence next year, and I would assume that they're just going to end up canning Gase here at some point.
Yeah, I think keeping Gase is just to keep the tank rolling. No reason to stop. No reason to give the Jaguars a chance to take that number 1 overall pick. The Jaguars would probably do anything to get Mr. Lawrence over there too. So I think it just makes sense to stick with Adam Gase going forward. And I don't know. Like you said, it's almost impossible to tell if Sam Darnold has any value as an NFL quarterback. I tend to lean towards no. I think that it's a combination. This is why you end up 0-16 because he is not good and the coaching is not good. So therefore, you have nothing good. But there's definitely a high chance that with Adam Gase, he's being held back. We'll have to see. It depends. He's going to have to make a big choice in this coming offseason on where he wants to go. It's going to be very important for if he can develop any further from here.
It's very similar to the Josh Rosen thing. We just have happened to see more of Darnold.
Yeah. Rosen's currently sitting on Tampa Bay's practice squad, which might be the best for him. Who knows?
Speaking of those Jaguars, they almost managed to win, but the Browns were able to hang on for the victory. Baker Mayfield threw his first touchdown since the Bengals game back in week 9 or something like that, which is nuts. But you think about all the games the Browns have played, they played a ton of bad weather games. This one was finally nice. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are both on pace for 1,000 yards. Are the Browns the worst 8-3 team we've ever seen, just like the Steelers are the worst 11-0 team anyone's ever seen?
Absolutely not. I like the Browns team, actually. I think that them relying on the run and actually being effective is really good. They have a really good offensive line for once, for like the first time in like it was like 10 years. But I actually like the Browns team. I kind of like them better than some other 8-3 teams.
But Austin, the Browns schedule.
They have the easiest schedule. How dare they not play the harder teams when they're not put on their schedule?
But they've lost.
You know what really makes me laugh? I love that the Ravens fans are saying that. Like, buddy, I understand that you had to play Kansas City and we got to play Denver. Yeah, I get it. But you also lost to the Patriots and we have to play the Bills. You know how much I'd give up to switch that game to play the Patriots this year? He's like, I understand. It's probably not a fair comparison because Kansas City is way better than Denver. But it feels like the Bills are way better than the Patriots this year too. So
That's because
I don't know. It just makes me laugh. But every other game after that is exactly the same. The literally only thing that the Ravens could say is we had to play the Chiefs and you didn't. It's just like, what do you mean? You're 6-5. Shut up. You lost to us twice.
Yeah.
You lost to us when your team was healthy and ours wasn't.
Literally, the only thing the Ravens have over the Browns right now is the fact that they beat the Browns in Week 1. Week 1.
Yeah, dude. Everything's wacky, weird one. A lot of things happen. The Jaguars beat the Colts Week 1. That feels like a year ago.
Yo, it's nuts. In 2 weeks, the Browns will be playing the Ravens on Monday night. They could, like, have a massive victory for Cleveland, like the city of Cleveland, by possibly bouncing the Ravens realistically from the playoffs. That would be huge. That game's in Cleveland.
That would be so cool.
Could you imagine if there were fans in Cleveland for that game? Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Please, Cleveland, Ohio. Lower your restrictions for that game and that game alone. I just want to see. I feel like it'd be more rowdy than a Buffalo Bills game. Those fans would be going.
That would be the craziest I think
Wild.
Browns fans would go since their first game back in the league. Probably.
It would be their Super Bowl. It would be like Philadelphia after they won the Super Bowl.
Getting a chance to eliminate the old Browns. Wow, that would be awesome. But I live in hope anyways. Let's move on to the Saints and Broncos. Probably the most interesting game of the week, not because of what happened on the field. Well, partially because of what happened on the field, but mostly because of the fact that the Broncos were screwed and had to use Kendall Hinton, a former salesman and part-time quarterback at Wake Forest, as a converted wide receiver practice squad player to start a quarterback because their entire quarterback room was on the COVID list.
I'm sorry. The Broncos didn't have a worse enough outbreak to have their game delayed. So
No, it's because they're 4-7 or 4-6. Sorry.
Yeah. We don't care about Denver because they're bad and because they don't get to get coddled. They're not. Their outbreak wasn't bad enough, and we don't care about them because they're 4-7. You're right. This was so stupid. Roger Goodell speaking just made me angry. He's like, we won't do this for positions. Like, you literally delayed the game from Tuesday to Wednesday because the Ravens said, we're going to go on strike. Like, what? Like, okay. All right, but you won't delay this game. Oh, well, the Broncos were at fault. Yeah, so were the Ravens. And you delayed that game 6 days. So, that was so dumb. I'm still mad about that game. It do be like that sometimes, I guess.
It also makes me mad because the Titans were the worst defenders of anybody this year. They held 2 practices and / workouts without the league's consent when they were told to stay home, and they barely got punished too. So, I mean, this is really a slap in the face for the Broncos, but they don't care about John Elway because he's going to get fired this year.
Yeah. Just be prepared for the Ravens to not get anything other than a fine, because the way they've been working is that if you are a first-time offender, you don't get draft picks taken away. It doesn't matter how bad your outbreak was, you're going to get a fine. As the second offense is when it gets bad. Who just got stripped of a draft pick now?
The Saints.
I forget who it was.
The Saints.
Who? Oh, the Saints? Yeah, the Saints lost, a 6th? Oh, yeah. No, they lost a 7th. The Raiders lost a 6th. For celebrating in the locker room. So that was stupid. Like, the Saints didn't deserve that. Like, to me, that was stupid. Every team's been celebrating in a locker room after the game.
Except for the Jets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Jets have nothing to celebrate.
No wins.
Other than that.
Yeah. The 49ers have the Rams number. They swept them this year. And how about Javon Kinlaw with the pick six? The Rams are confusing sometimes, but the NFC West doesn't make sense.
I was just going to say that. I was going to sing it sing-songy. The NFC West does not make sense. It does not ever know how you think. You think the Seahawks are going to beat the Cardinals when they're really bad? No. The Rams are going to beat up a 49ers team that has several injuries and, no quarterback? No. It doesn't have to make sense. Okay? It's the NFC West. They do what they want.
The Chiefs raced out to a big 20-7 lead against the Buccaneers and looked great in the process, but then they let the Buccaneers get back in the game. They're a third down conversion away from Tom Brady having an opportunity to win that game. The Chiefs keep pace just a game behind the Steelers, and the Buccaneers fall to 7-5.
Backdoor cover, man. That sucked. But Tom Brady looked bad. Really, really bad.
The Buccaneers are one of two teams with a bye week this week, the Panthers being the other. They have 4 games left to get 2 against the Falcons, 1 against the Lions, and 1 against the Vikings. I think that this team is going to finish 9-7, just like I thought they were going to be at the start of the year.
Yeah, they're basically on pace for it.
I mean, looking at their last 4 games, the Vikings, if Dalvin Cook goes off somehow, that could be a loss. The Falcons, even though they're kind of a pushover, they're playing better lately. I think they could split with them. The Lions will probably beat, but the Lions, I have a feeling, are going to play better now that they've gotten the worst part of their team off the team and their coach.
How is Dalvin Cook? Is he okay? He left the game against the Panthers, and it seems serious. They said okay, it's not that serious, but I don't know if he's going to be available for that game, that next one. Oh no, wait, it's 2 weeks from now. Duh, they're on bye week.
He insists he's ready to go for whatever that is worth. Sunday night was an embarrassing game. Another 41-25 score. We had 2 of those in the same week. Interestingly enough. Aaron Rodgers and the Packers just dominated the Bears. Man, I know the NFL's in a good spot with its quarterback play. The worst quarterbacks in the league are still way better than they were 10, 15 years ago. But Mitchell Trubisky and Nick Foles are really struggling for the Bears. Trubisky actually threw 3 TDs, but, I'm sure Trubisky has a spot in this league as a backup, but, it's as obvious as it ever was that they just can't keep up. The Bears right now remind me of what we saw from the Steelers at the end of last season. The defense is still good, but you can tell that they're reaching their wits' end. They're tired of carrying this team.
Yeah, man, it's just not going to happen. Their offense is just not contributing enough. Allen Robinson really needs to go somewhere where he can have a quarterback, man. I feel bad. Allen Robinson has been putting up numbers his entire career and has yet to have a good quarterback. Man, I got the Bortles treatment, the Trubisky treatment, the Foles treatment. Not fun.
There was a play in this game where both Robinson and another receiver were running an outbreaking route 10 yards away from each other, and the ball landed out of bounds perfectly in between them, and they were both looked at each other what? Who was that going to?
I'm sorry, say the question one more time?
Sorry, I was just saying that there was a play in this game, I'm pretty sure, where there were 2 receivers on outbreaking routes towards the sidelines, 10, 15 yards apart, and the ball went perfectly between them, out of bounds. And they both kind of looked at each other who was that supposed to go to?
Who was supposed to go to?
Yeah.
I didn't see the game. I knew it was going to be awful, and I was at work, so I didn't even tune in.
Lucky you. The Seahawks beat the Eagles in an unimpressive 23-17 game. The Eagles made it close with a Hail Mary at the end, but I really don't know what the Eagles are doing. It's time to bench Carson Wentz. Give him a few weeks off. Just start over. He's just playing horribly. And I know they talk about Jalen Hurts getting snaps. I don't know what the point is. Either play him or don't. Stop. if you're going to keep playing Carson Wentz, don't waste his time by having him lose practice reps to Jalen Hurts during the week.
Yeah, just all around dumb. It's Jalen Hurts time. It really is.
Decaf Metcalf getting it done. My God.
Yeah, he had 101 yards, I think, in the first half, if I remember correctly. That was wild.
That guy is legit. Hard to believe he was like the last pick of like, what was it, the third round or something like that?
Yeah, it's really funny, too, because I bet a bunch of people are really mad now because he was projected as a first-round pick. I remember seeing a mock draft with him going 8 to the Bills, and then people were, like, saying he can't run a route. Like, that actually might still be true. He's just ridiculous. He can run go. I feel like he only runs go routes, but he's been really effective at running go routes, so it doesn't even matter. He should have been it really should have been a first round pick. People were scared of his shuttle time and that he can run routes. Both those Ole Miss boys should have been first round picks, and neither were. Kind of wild.
I'm trying to look at this here. So he only caught 67 career passes at Ole Miss. Could you believe that?
Yeah, that's why Ole Miss was probably so bad. Like, they just didn't do well. While they had A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf there at the same time, and they didn't do well. How does that happen?
I'm trying to figure that out right now, if I can. Hey, the offensive line coach in 2018 was Jack Bicknell Jr.
Oh. Interesting.
A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown was drafted before DK Metcalf. Metcalf was the last pick of the second round.
Yeah.
Brown
Both should have been first rounders.
Brown had 189 receptions in college, so he was a lot more proven. So I guess I understand that. But
when I looked at Brown, I said that he would probably be the best wide receiver out of this draft, and definitely the best that I looked at, and that being true for the second part. I didn't look at DK Metcalf.
Metcalf has exceeded last year's yardage and touchdowns and has the same amount of catches that he did at this point last year. So he's
going insane.
He is well on his way. Yeah, I think that'll do it then for this podcast. Any further thoughts before we wrap it up?
I think we're good.
Alrighty. With that being the case, ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always for listening to the Stronger Than Steel podcast. If you have any questions about the show, feel free to email us at strongerthansteelpodcast@gmail.com. You can find our website, strongerthansteelnfl.blogspot.com. You can find our episodes posted on SoundCloud and YouTube, and we're on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Thank you so much, as always, for listening. And we'll be back later in the week to preview Steelers and the Washington football team on Monday afternoon. Austin, thank you for joining me. And until next time, thank you for listening to the Stronger Than Steel podcast.
Have a good night.
You have been listening to Stronger Than Steel podcast. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our website listed in the description below.